Intimacy of touch with moon in Hasta Nakshatra, precision wrapped in tenderness. For your Hasta Moon, touch is a language of care, refinement, and quiet attentiveness. Ruled by Savitar, the divine light and hand of skill, and seated in Virgo's discerning earth, this nakshatra brings order, gentleness, and deliberate grace to physical affection. You do not touch recklessly. You touch to improve, soothe, and steady. Your hands are not just instruments of affection, they are instruments of healing precision. Your touch is often quiet, helpful, and intentional. A gentle hand on a partner's wrist to calm anxiety, adjusting their collar before a meeting, resting your palm on someone's back in public as a sign of subtle protection. These are not just gestures of affection. They are your way of stabilizing the emotional field through the body. For you, physical closeness is not about intensity. It's about regulating energy, reaffirming trust, and creating rhythm. You touch as if you're arranging something sacred, because for you, love lives in the details. You may be shy at first, taking time to initiate contact, but once trust is built, your physical presence becomes a sanctuary of precision and patience. There is devotion in how you brush hair from a loved one's face, or how you trace circles on their skin while listening deeply. These motions are not mindless. They are acts of focused presence. Because you're naturally attuned to perfection in systems, your body often scans the environment for emotional disorder. And when you sense something is off, your instinct is to correct it through a calming gesture. You may not always speak your care aloud, but your touch communicates. Let me make this easier for you. However, your challenge arises when your desire to fix becomes too active. In moments of emotional overwhelm, you may withhold touch, not out of rejection, but out of fear of doing it wrong. Or you may touch more as service than as intimacy, losing connection to your own emotional needs in the process. To deepen this intimacy, say, I touch to bring order and calm. I feel safest when my touch is welcomed without rush or pressure. Or, for me, physical closeness is not about grand display. It's about small, steady gestures of trust. Because for your Hasta Moon, intimacy of touch is the ritual of grounded love. It's a hand that adjusts, not demands. It's the subtle reaching that says, I see your discomfort, and I want to ease it. And when someone receives your touch not as routine, but as reverent care, you give more than affection. You give a feeling of being held in precision, presence, and peace. Not dramatic, not chaotic, but wholly and exquisitely exact. Intimacy of Sensate with moon in Hasta Nakshatra. Orderly sensitivity, sacred simplicity. For your Hasta Moon, Sensate intimacy is experienced through gentle refinement, where every sensation is filtered through calm, clarity, and care. Ruled by Savitar, the solar deity of skilled illumination, and rooted in Virgo's earthy practicality, this nakshatra brings a love for simple elegance, quiet beauty, and sensory environments that soothe rather than overwhelm. Your senses are not extravagant, they are discerning. You do not crave intensity, you crave accuracy, congruence, clean lines. You are moved not by chaos, but by a perfectly timed glance, the smell of crisp linens, the texture of cool cotton, or the soft rustle of pages in a room filled with silence. These details, so small to others, are how your body receives affection. Sight, for you, is about aesthetic clarity. You feel closest to someone when your surroundings are harmonious. An uncluttered room, a table thoughtfully set, the visual gesture of someone taking care to create peace around you. You read energy through environments. Messiness disorients you, but symmetry calms your nervous system. Sound must be moderate and meaningful. You notice tone more than volume. A voice that speaks gently, with intention and warmth, goes straight to your heart. Disorganized noise or harsh interruptions make you tense. You are not only hearing words, you're analyzing the emotional rhythm behind them. Touch, for your moon, is delicate and structured. You're not always spontaneous, but when you touch, it's precise, affectionate, and informed. A light brush of fingers while sharing a plan, a back rub after noticing fatigue. Touch that fits the moment, not to control it, but to enhance its clarity. Taste and smell also reflect your refined simplicity. You find emotional satisfaction in well-prepared food, clean scents, herbal teas, and natural fragrances. Strong perfumes or overly artificial flavors may repel you. You want what feels pure, balanced, and quietly nourishing. Your shadow arises when you over-curate your sensory world to avoid emotional messiness. You might reject warmth that feels too unstructured or dismiss affection that comes in unfamiliar sensory forms. But growth happens when you allow spontaneity within safety, when you recognize that intimacy doesn't have to be perfect to be real. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, I feel closest when my senses are respected with gentleness and care, when beauty feels intentional, not performative. Or, sensory connection, for me, is about clarity and calm. It helps me open slowly and with trust. Because for your Hasta Moon, Sensate Intimacy is not about overwhelming the body, it's about tuning the heart through subtle atmosphere. You feel loved not in loud declarations, but in the arranged beauty of a shared space, a warm blanket folded just right, a partner's breath sinking quietly with yours. In that silence, your senses receive, not through drama, but through devotional precision, sacred simplicity, and the quiet knowing that love lives in the details. Intimacy of kindness with Moon and Hasta Nakshatra, precision in care, humility in heart. For your Hasta Moon, kindness is not loud or lofty. It is measured, thoughtful, and quietly continuous. Ruled by Savitar, the divine hand of skill and illumination, and grounded in Virgo's detail-oriented earth, your emotional world finds security in structured service, consistent presence, and small acts done with great awareness. You do not equate love with intensity. You equate it with reliability, thoughtfulness, and effort woven through quiet action. You notice when someone folds your clothes the way you like, when they refill your tea before you ask, when they soften their voice because they sense you're overstimulated. These are not pleasantries to you. They are emotional accuracy. You offer kindness like a sacred craft, carefully, attentively, and often behind the scenes. You may not gush or perform, but your partner will always find their favorite snacks organized, the towel warmed, the schedule handled. Your love is practical, but it is never mechanical. It's how you build emotional architecture around another's well-being. 1,000 small tasks stitched with devotion. Yet your challenge lies in over-serving without receiving. You may give until you're quietly depleted, hoping that your consistency will be appreciated without needing to ask for acknowledgement. And when it's not, you don't explode. You retreat inward, withdrawing your emotional labor as a form of self-protection. Another shadow, your kindness can become corrective. You may try to help as a way of fixing what's flawed, unintentionally turning support into quiet critique. But at your best, your kindness is not about fixing, it's about holding space with intelligence and grace. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, my love lives in the small details. I feel closest when kindness is consistent, not dramatic, but dependable. Or, I offer care through precision. I feel loved when others notice the quiet things I do. Because for your Hasta Moon, kindness is a slow rhythm of attunement, not an outburst of affection. It is a glance that sees before it's asked. A task completed not for applause, but for peace. And when someone gives to you in the same spirit, quietly, consistently, with awareness, your heart relaxes its perfectionism. You no longer need to manage every detail. You can receive the grace you've spent your life offering others. Because your kindness isn't just care, it's emotional craftsmanship, made of humility, discipline, and the rare beauty of attention. Intimacy of growth with Moon and Hasta Nakshatra, evolving through refinement, not rupture. For your Hasta Moon, growth is not about sudden transformation. It is about steady, thoughtful refinement. Ruled by Savitar, the god of inspired skill, and grounded in Virgo's earth, your emotional body seeks progress through small adjustments, daily improvements, and repeated efforts toward mutual betterment. You don't evolve by burning everything down. You evolve by tidying what's messy, clarifying what's confused, and softening what's rigid. You grow best in relationships that honor ritual, rhythm, and patience. Where check-ins are consistent, not reactive. Where feedback is constructive, not attacking. Where there's space to say, we're not broken, we're just in process. You believe in healing through details, learning how your partner likes their tea, how they respond to silence, what their nervous system needs to feel safe. You bring this same growth energy to your relationships. You notice patterns, offer solutions, suggest better ways of navigating conflict. You're the one who says, let's try this differently, not to criticize, but because you care about optimization, about love functioning at its best. But your shadow arises when growth becomes perfectionism. You may start to believe that love is only safe if it's flawlessly managed. You may begin correcting everything, including your partner's natural rhythms, in an effort to keep the emotional landscape orderly. Or you may become too self-critical, believing that if you're not constantly improving, you're failing. Yet your true growth lies not in being perfect, but in learning to let things be in process. To see your relationship as a living system, not a fixed design. To love the rough drafts as much as the polished results. To deepen this intimacy, say, I grow through small changes, not emotional chaos. I need a partner who values slow, sustainable progress. Or, I thrive in relationships where care and clarity walk hand in hand. Because for your Hasta Moon, growth is not a breakdown. It's a ritual of becoming. It's the way you fine-tune your connection day by day, not through pressure, but through patience. And when someone grows beside you with the same thoughtful effort, with self-respect, with humility, and with a willingness to evolve, you don't just feel safe. You feel seen as a co-architect of something sacred. Because for you, intimacy of growth is not measured in dramatic change, but in the delicate, deliberate shaping of a love that becomes more whole with every quiet repair. Intimacy of activity with Moon in Hasta Nakshatra. Harmony in routine, bonding through purposeful doing. For your Hasta Moon, activity is never just about motion, it's about meaning. Ruled by Savitar, the deity of craftsmanship and light-bearing order, and nestled in Virgo's methodical earth, your emotional body is deeply calmed by shared tasks, intentional service, and rituals that bring subtle beauty to the everyday. You connect through what is useful, cooperative, and rhythmically soothing. You don't need grand gestures or adrenaline-fueled plans. You need a flow, a rhythm of life where you and your partner participate in the dance of daily living, organizing the kitchen together, walking in silence, tidying the room side by side, or planning a calendar that gives space for both productivity and peace. Your bonding happens when the activity feels purposeful and structured, but also warm. You feel closest when tasks are approached with care, not chaos, when decisions are discussed, not demanded. You may prefer doing over-talking, especially when emotions are high. For you, folding clothes with someone can be more emotionally revealing than a 3-hour conversation. You often initiate shared activity as a form of love, handling errands, managing details, making things easier. But if your contribution goes unnoticed or unreciprocated, you may grow quietly resentful. You might keep doing, but your heart withdraws. The challenge arises when your efforts become invisible or expected, and the emotional feedback loop is left open. You may also resist spontaneity if it feels like it disrupts the peace you work so hard to maintain. But part of your growth in intimacy is learning that not all shared activity needs to be optimized. Sometimes, the best memories are born from a little mess, a missed step, an unfinished to-do. To deepen this intimacy, say, I feel most connected when we're doing simple things together with mutual presence and care. Or when the rhythm of life is shared, not forced, I feel safe enough to stay emotionally open. Because for your Hasta Moon, activity is an act of alignment, not just a to-do list, but a way to weave together intention, effort, and affection. When a partner shows up in that same spirit, tidying not just the house, but the energy, you don't just function well, you flourish in quiet synchrony. You don't need drama to feel alive. You need shared steps taken gently. Because for you, intimacy of activity is about being of use to love and having love be of use to both hearts in return. Intimacy of allowance with Moon in Hasta Nakshatra. Permission to pause, space to self-correct. For your Hasta Moon, intimacy of allowance is about being given the time and space to return to emotional center, without pressure, without performance. Ruled by Savitar, the divine hand of refinement and conscious action, and rooted in Virgo's grounded, analytical earth, you are wired for emotional regulation, improvement, and care. But you need a space where you can breathe, recalibrate, and just be, without always being the one who fixes, organizes, or shows up first. You are naturally helpful. You track details, you anticipate needs, but when you are emotionally off balance, You don't want anyone charging in to solve you. You want space to reflect, to adjust, to sort through your feelings in solitude. Your mind is always scanning for clarity, and when overstimulated, you may retreat into tasks, quiet rituals, or logic to restore your emotional footing. What your heart needs is a partner who lets you be in process, without assuming something is wrong or demanding that you explain before you're ready. You open most deeply when you are not cornered by urgency. You flourish when you're allowed to re-enter the room in your own time. You also offer this same allowance to others when emotionally secure. You are understanding of people's rhythms and tend to give space through gentle, thoughtful boundaries. But if you feel unseen or unappreciated, your energy may shift into quiet criticism or emotional distance. Not out of malice, but as a way of protecting your need for self-containment. The shadow here is that you may over-identify with being the competent one, silently suppressing your need to be allowed to unravel. You may hold yourself to standards no one asked for, believing that your worth lies in managing things smoothly. But your deeper maturity emerges when you realize you are lovable even in disarray. To deepen this intimacy, say, I feel safest when I'm allowed to sort through my emotions in peace, without being pushed to perform clarity. Or, I show up fully when I'm trusted to return on my own terms, not managed, just held in patience. Because for your Hasta Moon, allowance is the quiet grace that lets your nervous system exhale. It's the love that doesn't rush your repair. It's the faith that your careful heart will re-engage when it's ready, not when it's coerced. And when someone gives you that space, not as absence, but as respect, you bring back a love that is precise, present, and deeply faithful. Because you don't take your re-entry lightly. You come back with devotion, refined by time, and worthy of trust. Intimacy of giving with Moon in Hasta Nakshatra, devotion in detail, love is quiet precision. For your Hasta Moon, giving is how you organize your love into tangible form. Ruled by Savitar, the deity of divine craftsmanship, and aligned with Virgo's grounded, service-oriented earth, you don't give to impress. You give to restore, refine, and repair. Your love language is practical tenderness, showing up, smoothing wrinkles others overlook, offering care in ways so understated that they're often missed, but never without meaning. You give through acts of service done with emotional accuracy, making someone's tea just the way they like it, remembering their preference for silence in the morning, adjusting their collar before a meeting. You notice what's needed before it's spoken, and often before it's known. You don't just give things, you give attention to what holds things together. Your emotional satisfaction comes from knowing that what you offered helped, that your effort made life easier, more elegant, more aligned. Giving for you is both affection and function. It's how you silently say, I'm thinking of you, I'm attending to your world. But the shadow lies in overfunctioning. You may pour yourself into caregiving until you're quietly worn out, hoping your service will be recognized or reciprocated, but not always expressing that need. If left unmet, this can lead to subtle resentment. You may still perform the tasks, but your heart pulls back. You also risk measuring your worth by your usefulness, believing that if you're not actively supporting someone, you may not deserve their presence. But love is not a performance of efficiency. You are enough even when your hands are at rest. To deepen this intimacy, say, I give with care and clarity, but I feel most connected when my offerings are received with quiet appreciation, not expectation. Or, my love is in the details. I just want to know they land, even if silently. Because for your Hasta Moon, giving is a sacred ritual of attunement. You don't offer loudly, you offer precisely. Not with drama, but with gentle mastery. And when your giving is received as the soul offering it is, not taken for granted, not rushed past, you feel emotionally safe. You continue to give, not just to help, but to harmonize. Because for you, love isn't loud. It's a folded towel, a fixed button, a hand placed exactly where it soothes. It is the most exquisite form of care, unspoken, intentional, and deeply devoted. Intimacy of receiving with Moon in Hasta Nakshatra, trusting the gift, letting love land. For your Hasta Moon, receiving is a quiet art, and sometimes a quiet struggle. Ruled by Savitar, the deity of the skilled hand, and grounded in Virgo's discerning, service-oriented nature, Your emotional world is far more comfortable offering care than accepting it. You are so used to noticing what others need that you often forget. You too are meant to be tended to. You give with humility, precision, and consistency. But when love turns toward you, when someone offers help, affection, or even deep presence, you may flinch inward. Not because you don't want it, but because your moon needs to trust that the offering is clean, sincere, and attuned to your rhythm. You are not drawn to grand gestures. You are moved by small, accurate kindnesses. A partner who quietly brings your favorite snack. A friend who senses when to step in without being asked. Someone who listens to your thoughts without trying to fix them. These are the moments your nervous system begins to soften. Yet, your inner wiring often whispers, "I shouldn't need this." You might deflect with a smile, repay affection too quickly, or keep a running mental tab of what now must be reciprocated. But the deeper truth of your Hasta Moon is this: you are worthy of care even when you are not useful. You are allowed to receive without earning. Receiving for you becomes sacred when it is gentle, respectful of your autonomy, and offered with quiet intention. Not rushed, not imposed. You open when love comes in the form of subtle precision, when it honors your internal calibration. To deepen this intimacy, say, "I open most easily when love is offered without pressure or performance, just care in its cleanest form." Or, "I'm still learning how to receive without feeling I need to repay. I want to feel safe, simply accepting." Because for your Hasta Moon, receiving is not passivity. It's permission to stop managing the world for a moment. To let someone else hold the detail. To let someone else adjust the space. And when that happens, when the gesture lands with grace and no expectation, you don't just receive, you absorb. You let love settle like a well-placed hand, precise, attuned, and quietly transformative.